Hi, my name is Rachel Bella, and this is my presentation. I wanted to go over though that for this presentation, the way that I picture this going is being a staff PD and allowing for lots of discussion, because for me personally, looking deeper into these things, the biggest takeaway for me, and I get the most from it when I'm able to sit down and discuss it with someone else. So I really want to make sure that I would provide staff with that opportunity. So lots of discussion and being able to talk through it with our colleagues and one another. So just keeping that in mind as I walk through roughly what I picture this being and what this would look like. So today we are going to look at unconscious biases, and this is what is it? Some of you may know what it is, have an idea around it, have heard it before. Others of you may have no idea, and that's okay. And we're going to look at that today. So we're going to watch this video and see what we learn more about it. And we would watch this video, and this is about like a 3.5-minute video, so it's not very long, but we're not going to watch it right now. Nope. Taking a deeper look at what we just learned in the video, we all have unconscious biases. It is hardwired into our brains. It is not something that is optional. They're all there, and it's up to us to find them and figure out what we can do to address them. From a really cool TED Talk that is, I will link at the end here, she states that we all have biases about what is different to our social norms. So a lot of these biases can be linked back to personal backgrounds and how we were raised. So thinking about that, our next step, I want you to start thinking about what biases you might have. But before we do that, I'm going to have you take a little look into your personal background. So we're going to take 5 minutes, and I want you to write a brief racial autobiography. This does not have to be super in depth. You only have 5 minutes to do it, so I don't want you to overthink it. You can start, if you want to start all the way back to your childhood, you can. I would at least like you to go back as far as college and just write down things such as where you were raised, what was the town like, big, small, was there a lot of cultural diversity for you where you grew up, or not so much? So keeping those things in mind, I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Just jot this down on your paper, and then we will go to our next activity. Now we're going to discuss this. So I want you to break into groups of 4 or 5 at your tables, please. And when you get there, what you're going to do is you're going to share your autobiography with your group. I do not want anyone to be uncomfortable. So if you don't want to share a lot of it, you do not have to share a lot of it. Try to pick at least a couple things in your background that are there that you can discuss with your table, though. And then I want you to start thinking about what biases you have that you recognize that you might have in the classroom. For instance, holding different kids to different standards, the way that you discipline certain kids based on skin color or anything like that. So start thinking about that after you share your group autobiography with the group. And then I want you to start thinking about, how does your racial autobiography and your growing up, how can you make connections between those biases that you have based around your upbringing and how you were raised? So you're going to get some time now, and we're just going to kind of monitor and see how we're doing as groups, because I don't want to rush you through this step. I really want you to take a chance to dig in and really talk about it and think about it. And what are your biases? Everyone has them, so I really want everyone to at least come up with one bias that they recognize that they have in the classroom, and think about how your upbringing and your background might impact that. Now, what can we as educators do to address our biases? So now that you've identified a bias and you have a better understanding maybe as to why you have that bias, we need to think of what we can do to address these biases, because once we know about them, we can't just not do anything with that information. The next step is we have to move forward by figuring out what we can do to make ourselves better and do a better job of knowing that we have these biases and figuring out what steps we can take to make sure that we are not treating others poorly or differently due to these biases. So you have anchor chart paper there at your tables. I'm going to give you 5 minutes. If we're done before then, we'll stop the timer. But I want you to just list down any ideas that you have that we can do to solve our biases, and then we will all share out and we'll discuss. So side note in this part, then after they would do that, we'd go around and have every group share out because I think that this could bring up some really good discussion points. And then after that, we would move on. All right, reflection. I'm just out of curiosity. How does talking about some of these unconscious biases make you feel? Why do you think it makes you feel that way? I want you to think about that for a second and then discuss it with a partner. And then anyone who wants to share that out, go ahead and share that out. And at this point in the presentation, I'd like for some people to say that it's maybe a little uncomfortable, and then we can discuss why we think it was uncomfortable and just kind of dig a little deeper into that. And your exit ticket for the day, you're going to write down one step that you're going to take moving forward to address at least one of your biases that you discovered that you have when it comes to teaching and being in the classroom. You do not have to put your name on it. I don't need to know your name. I just want to know that you have some sort of step and plan in place to help hold yourself accountable to address these biases so we can start being better instead of just being complacent. And then references.